Now I wanted to just kind of talk about up layer two, obviously,
Sure.
first layer two on Hedera. And we already talked about kind of the business rationale of building a layer two. And I think that that's refreshing because, as you said, obviously, most of the times a layer two is done to get around performance issues, but this is more around interoperability.
Yeah, to date. I think that's changing really fast though. If you talk
Yeah.
to the people who like work at the roll up as a service providers and stuff like that, and now you're seeing like lots of L2s launch on Solana and they're calling them network extensions or
Okay.
whatever. But they're L2s. And it's for some business logic because
Hmm.
um yeah, I mean to really fully understand it, you have to go a little bit deeper. So like the up token, ideally, it will not just capture value from transaction fees that happen, from the fans of these various sports leagues and esports teams and fantasy sports platforms, but it will also capture transaction fees that happen because people build applications on top of them, right? So like
Right.
nobody's going to come in and build a bunch of these emergent applications on top of up only gaming unless there's multiple up only gaming properties out there, but there's tons of things that you can build on top of the up only gaming primitive. We have lots of ideas for it that we laid out in the article.
Hmm.
And the cool thing is, like, even though we don't have like a license agreement with like these emergent layers on top of up only gaming, they're still like generating transaction fees for the up network. So it's like this really interesting way to license out software that I think will become quite popular because I think like sort of every consumer, I think most of the successful consumer apps in Web3, they're going to use Web3 as like sort of an enabling technology, like a spice, a flair, a special piece on top of some great product, right?
Hmm.
It's not going to be the BL and end all. Like once you get outside of like infrastructure, like core infrastructure and DeFi, like DEXs and borrow lend and stuff, I think most of the successful consumer apps Web3 is going to be a part of it, right? And if
Right.
Web3 is a part of it, then it can probably be a part of it for other consumer apps. And once you've created it yourself and you've proved it, why not find a way to share it with other consumer apps? And so how do you do that? Like how do you license it out? And I think an L2 is a really interesting way.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's about like almost rethinking the way software is distributed. Um, that's really cool to think about it that way because generally I think that the reaction I have is like layer two is always about solving for performance. But to your point, even outside of Hedera, it's like it turns out there's a lot more uses for it. There's a lot more different ways to think about a layer two. So I that's really interesting.